So when should you go above or below asking price?
That's a good question. So, that is constantly changing all the time. The market's constantly changing all the time. I mean, one of the first things that we'll look at are days on the market. And so, if you have, if it's a day or two on the market, it's a little silly to go in below asking price. You have to realize what the seller's expectations are. It doesn't mean that you can't get it below asking price, but just, all things being equal, if it's a day or two on the market and you come in below asking price, everyone's going to wonder what the heck is going on. And you have to also think that if you're interested in it, probably some other people are interested in it too. On the other side of that, if it's been on the market for, if it's residential and it's been on the market for 60 or 75 days, there's probably some play in the price. I don't know how much, but there probably is. If it's been on the market 5 to 7 months, there's probably more play in the residential. And the land, land is not the same situation. We often have pieces of land that are on the market for a year or two. And believe it or not, even though, a piece of land's been on the market for a year and a half, a lot of inexperienced land broker buyers will be like, well, what's wrong with it? You're obviously, it's been on the market for a year and a half. You have to understand that a land buyer is quite rare. They have to have a lot of liquidity. They have to have, the cash to buy it. So just because days on the market are long for land doesn't necessarily mean that there's a lot of flexibility in the price. But so if a few days on the market, you might want to go above asking price, but many days on the market, there's probably some play. The other thing you have to take into consideration are terms. I mean, you can, things aren't so, everybody's so focused on price, but terms are just as important or more important. So again, in the land game, we often have, we often have contingency contracts, or what we call entitlement contracts, where, I'll have 100 acres, but the prospective buyer wants to do a 50 lot subdivision. That can take 18, 24 months. Or, there are some buyers that they might want a 36-month contract. You want a 36-month contract on a piece of land, it's probably not good to go below asking price. You might actually, to incentivize the seller to take your contract, you might want to go above asking price in that situation. But if you're cash, closing quickly, you might have some other power, and you can actually go below. I mean, if you come in, just to give you a point of how terms can be so important, it's a residential building house, and you say cash closing in 7 days as is, you probably do have some. You can probably beat them up, and so you do have the power to potentially go under asking price at that point. And then the other thing that you need to take into consideration is whether or not, if this is just the perfect piece, it doesn't matter that it's been on the market for 30 or 60 days. If it's the perfect piece of property and you don't want to lose it, it might be in your best interest to come in a little bit above asking price. If it's not the perfect property and you have to do a whole lot of changes to it, we've had a situation where the second floor was unfinished, and the only way this property works for you is if you finish the second floor. Well, that's a big expense. And so because of the changes, even though it doesn't have anything to do with the seller, it might be in your best interest to come in under asking price because of the improvements that you have to make. And, it's not the perfect piece of property. So it's just whether or not the property suits your needs, days on the market, and we can't forget about terms. Terms are very important.